What's behind your theory of showmanship in baseball?
Well, I happen to have a very ridiculous theory, according to many ball club operators, that it should be fun. You know, I don't think that baseball is such a grim, serious thing. Sure, I don't want to interfere with the game, but I do want everyone who comes out to the ballpark to have fun. And look, let's face it, often the ball game is not the most exciting thing that ever's happened.
I'm an American, born roughly a year prior to Jesse Cole. We share the same generation. I believe that almost all, if not the supermajority of able-bodied young American men growing up, when we did, had some affection for and attraction to the game of baseball. I think and believe that baseball is the first sport an American boy of my generation learned because its elementary rules are very easy to pick up. You immediately understand the concept of how a run is scored, what is safe, and what is out. The concept of a strike that occurs when a bat is swung, but the ball is missed. The concept of a hit ball being fair or foul. The intricacies of the strike zone, interference, balks, substitution rules, and rules governing the use of designated hitter come later on when you have to really learn the game to comprehend it. Baseball is somewhat of a forced meme in the American cultural landscape. It had 100-year-old roots by the time that I entered elementary school. There were involuntary exposures to the game through the cultural indoctrination process that we received by reading Casey at Bat. There were also the writings of authors with impossible to reality fantasies that they sought to come true by simply writing an illustrated story that had no basis in reality. Fleet-Footed Florence was a story that I had to read in 3rd grade, or maybe it was one of the many curated books I was allowed to choose from during a Reading is Fundamental program. It involved a woman who played baseball against men, and not just any men I might add, but the best possible male baseball players, and she was actually better than a lot of them, all whilst maintaining every aspect of perfect femininity. And the star was popular with the public and fell in love with the catcher of the New York Yankees. I get the sense that such books were one of the many ways propagandists would alter the minds of youth so that they may be confused for a time only to slowly realize later in life that we were all lied to. It wasn't just books like this, movies tended to do that as well. But I do believe that a lot of this forced culture might have had something to do with the trying to create a culture in a country that was only a few centuries old. And baseball was something that wanted to be and was deeply rooted already by the time that the American educational system had been taken over by such propagandists to teach Americans what to think, how to feel, and what our culture was to be. Like a lot of young adults, all of us once out and on our own, within our own abilities to research history in the microscopic point of view, we started to realize that not all is as it seems. Baseball was no longer the number one sport in America when I was growing up. It had lost its place to American football. And by the time I'd turned 13 years old, I started learning the rules of American football, a much more complicated sport, in the same way I'd learned the rules of baseball, through video games. Yes, John Madden had taught me, and before I knew it, I was participating in football. Baseball was something that I understood, but I didn't play it. I played football, and I started to appreciate the cultural roots of football a lot more. I also started to deeply study it, and in that study I slowly realized that many reasons why it became the number one sport in America. Football had the ability baseball wished it had. Football had the ability to keep the game interesting no matter what level you were watching. It had a deep respect for the holiday of each level. It played only once a week, and the weekend was the holiday for each level. Friday night was for high schools. Saturday was for colleges. And Sundays, well, they were for the pros. I've never done a deep dive into this to determine if it was a coincidence, intentional, or a happy accident, but I know that the reality is that there is way more respect for football from the higher levels based on how Jerry Jones panicked when the NFL tried to schedule a Cowboys home game on a Saturday in December of 2015. He tried to convince the league to reschedule because he enjoyed having the state championship games at AT&T Stadium. Find me an example of this culture in baseball. I doubt that you would have such a connection between the lowest competitive level and the highest. it doesn't really exist, at least not to the same extent. Baseball, when experienced, becomes less and less entertaining. Experiencing baseball at the highest level in person was always seen as an outing to pay too much money for junk food, have conversation with friends and family, and generally regard the regular season game as secondary to your own enjoyment. The experience is unnecessarily expensive, and if your team isn't winning by June, the whole thing is somewhat of an excuse just to leave the house and do something in your big city. When it comes to pro sports, baseball was always the cheapest option, and it was often the only time entire families in America went to an elite sporting event together. Trying to watch it on television just makes for bad TV. To figure out why baseball was so awful at times, you have to really look into the differences between it and football. George Carlin loved to do this bit back 50 years ago, and it was contrasted football as a war simulation with a deep voice and negative energy, and baseball is this little boy's game with positive energy. The entire thing was brilliant, and I'm not sure if foreign English-speaking audiences could pick up on the cultural nuances that made the bit funny. Mostly, though, was that it was rooted in absolute truth. Baseball in America allowed itself to become stale and boring, and the only way to see this was to look at it from its roots. All politics is downstream of culture, just as all illness is downstream of lifestyle. With baseball, there was a fundamental shift that happened, and the leadership downstream didn't understand why. Baseball has had lower participation. It no longer attracts the best athletes in the United States. This is evidenced by the lack of Black American participation. It's obvious to extrapolate that if Black Americans no longer participate in the large aggregate numbers that they once did, then it's likely that the best white American athletes no longer participate either. Baseball has had a hard time trying to figure this out, and it is mostly rooted at a level that MLB has no control over: youth. All sports and competitions are just life tournaments for individuals who participate in them. Most people who compete in any sport are never going to make money playing it. Most will fail to compete at the next competitive level and will retire from the game and focus their life's work on other endeavors. Baseball at the youth level is very expensive. There are travel teams and tournaments on the road. You have to play the game a lot to perform well at it. So youth baseball is all about having as many games as possible. Unlike football, baseball is somewhat of a private endeavor. Families of players pay a lot of money in order to get enough games in so that their boys can acquire the difficult skill set of when to swing the bat and when not to, how to field and make the throws. Most of Black America lacked the necessary funds for this, and slowly Black Americans' chances of making it to the next level went down as the years progressed. And it soon became difficult to find Black professional baseball players who weren't from the Caribbean. Other sports started to absorb these children. Basketball has gone through a similar process and has slowly morphed into a similar situation as baseball. You can hear this argument on this channel shown here. Rising sports like soccer also started to grow and attract athletes from other sports. Football, however, absorbed the best for a simple reason. In football, you could be a star at every level. Anyone who is a very serious football fan in the great state of Texas can tell you who the best high school football teams in Texas are. They watch at every competitive level. Football is affordable if you're willing to skip the NFL. You can go see great high school football games for less than $20 a ticket at the University Interscholastic League, which governs public high school sports in the state of Texas, and has made itself somewhat easy to understand how the teams in their league make the high school playoffs. If you want to see a good high school game, come to Texas in late November when the second season, as the playoffs are colloquially known, is going on. There have been some outstanding matchups that have attracted huge crowds. In this clip shown here, there were at least 65,000 people in attendance, and I was one of them. Look at how Jerry Jones conducted the 2018 NFL Draft. He used a plethora of high school football players from the state of Texas in various roles throughout the ceremonies. The message from Jerry was clear. If you play football, you'll be a star. In baseball, if you're not in the major leagues, nobody knows who you are. At the elite level of baseball, you have 162 regular season games, along with an additional, completely unjustifiable 18 practice games known as spring training games, in little shared venues out in Arizona and Florida. There are so many games that most are forgettable. And that's also why baseball is so affordable. Clubs practically give tickets away sometimes. It was always that way growing up around a perpetually mediocre Texas Ranger club. I used to see employers buy large quantities of discount ticket package to give away to their employees as benefits. And with that large number of games, there were many that turned into runaway games that are not worth watching, which causes people to leave early. The only time baseball gets interesting is in the playoffs. For whatever reason, playoff baseball doesn't have the same nonsensical, careless attitude that regular season baseball carries. Every pitch matters. The count is important. The lineup is important. The game is exciting because there is elimination on the line. Even a simple international all-star preseason tournament could sell baseball because the thing was a playoff. First there was pool play where if you lost twice you were eliminated, and then there were 3 rounds of single elimination games. These games attracted huge fan presence prior to baseball's opening day. The interest in baseball is there. The problem is that there are way too many games. And if there are too many games, then there are also far too many minor league teams playing too many games as well. And there's another issue with minor league baseball. In addition to players getting paid next to nothing, the major league organizations treat minor league baseball as a practice. It's not about competition. It's about the development of players' skill sets. It is only competitive once you reach the major leagues. Because of this, games become pointless to attend. Minor league baseball team ownership is a losing proposition. You can have a big public-private partnership to create an economic zone where taxpayers are forced to fund a master plan public development in the interest of private business because, in American politics, you've been convinced the last thing that your mid-sized city can afford not to have is an entertainment district. You'll know that you're in one of these monstrosities the minute you see antiquated forms of overpriced public mass transit, like a streetcar line operating on the city streets there. Even with a master plan piece of real estate surrounding your beautiful ballpark, minor league baseball will still fail to sell tickets. You can see this as evidenced in these pictures here, where the Oklahoma City Dodgers have completely given up on even attempting to sell enough tickets to fill their upper deck. I'll get back to this later. The real issue with baseball is the complete disconnection between the competitive levels. Over time, the leadership of baseball has made increasingly short-sighted and incredibly baffling moves. It was almost as if the top leadership of baseball had interested in maintaining something that they had inherited and worried that they might disappoint their ancestors if they made changes. Baseball over time became a game of old men, and not just any old men, but bitter old men. The culture pushed by these guys evolved over time. It wasn't invented by these old men, but rather it was around when they were young, and handed down to them. Baseball is a legacy sport, and it is proud of its history. Like a lot of big businesses, it has rested on its laurels for quite some time. Because of its disconnection with lower competitive levels, it failed to see trends in time to correct them. It lost the black audience and didn't know why. Chris Rock tried to explain this on HBO's Real Sports, but even he wasn't aware that the source of the problem was at the youth level. By the time that the major leagues noticed, it was too late. Baseball often acts like white baby boomers used to act when falsely accused of racism. They would immediately claim that they had black friends. And baseball, for whatever reason, is always obsessed with its past. In addition to their early days, they love to constantly bring back the Jackie Robinson and the civil rights movement. Its ardent fans the past 2 decades were often blissfully unaware that they had lost the plot. George W. Bush and several baseball bigwigs hated multi-purpose stadiums and figured that baseball would beat football if they had their own stadiums that harkened back to the era of baseball-only stadiums in downtown areas. This thought was increasingly prevalent after the Baltimore Orioles had built Camden Yards. However, these stadiums were all paid for by tax dollars, and both the Texas Rangers and the Atlanta Braves built new stadiums to replace their old new stadiums in less than 30 years. And these stadiums have less seats than the old ones. Another example of this comes from the 2008 presidential election, when asked what each candidate would do if they had the power to change something about sports. John McCain said that he would do something about steroids in baseball, and Barack Obama saw the more obvious, glaring error in the sports world and said that he had made college football have a playoff system. It is said that it is hard to turn a big ship. Baseball also has been heavily resistant to rule changes over the decades. This is particularly due to the heavy influence of purists and stat nerds. Statistic nerds changed the internal thinking of baseball through new statistical studies brought on by sabermetrics. But purists have been resistant to allow rule changes to take place because they constantly love to bicker about the past and need rules to stay consistent in order to do so. This leads to the creation of unwritten rules about limiting celebrations, a culture of not showing anyone up, superstitions, and manners to take place because having a mercy rule would somehow ruin the appearance of the sport. But runaway games wouldn't. This past season they made some radical changes to the rules, and in doing so sped up the game slightly. But also they gave us some confusing rules, banned innovations like the shift, and did not prevent runaway games. There are more conformist cultures out there than the United States, and even they don't allow baseball to be as boring as it's presented in the United States. Japan, for instance, keeps games highly entertaining. They have all sorts of differences between them and the American League practices. This is true in Korea, China, Taiwan, and even the Caribbean. It's only in America that we see games culture governed by so fiercely into allow it to be seen as boring. Baseball's issue is that it's relying on a culture that wants to be number one whilst forgetting what made them number one in the first place. Baseball had to overtake the early popular spectator sports of golf, boxing, horse racing, and indoor bicycling. Yes, that last one was not only a thing, but quite popular. And in the inheritance of a legacy sport like baseball, the early history doesn't get properly focused on. This is something that Jesse Cole asked himself when he saw that people left games early. He couldn't figure out why this was happening. In researching baseball's early rise to number one, he saw something lacking. The unwritten rules and stiff behavior culture that was brought on didn't always exist. He found evidence of this in games such as a manner that was contrary to the rules. He read stories about pitchers so confident in their abilities to strike a hitter out, they told his fielders to leave the field early because he was going to strike the batter out. And sometimes it actually happened. Jesse changed the rules of the game so that closer games either happened or runaway games ended early. Instead of accumulating runs, teams should immediately try to win an inning, and in doing so they should receive a point for each inning that they won. Instead of allowing a pitcher to simply walk batters, the play became live and involved the 7 other fielders having to touch the ball before they could put the runner out. Instead of allowing a catcher not to worry about a wild pitch when the bases are unoccupied, a batter should be able to steal first base on a wild pitch. He decided that batters should no longer take forever between swings and kept them inside the batter's box during their at-bat by issuing a strike if they stepped out. To compensate, the defense, he banned bunting and he hated it. And I'm not sure if it was because he hated bunting or if it was to balance it. I should have asked him when I had the chance. He decided that fans catching a foul ball would result in the batter being out. He also instituted a 2-hour time limit so that new innings could not start after the time expired. And his solution to extra innings is brilliant. He decided it should be a 1-out affair with the defense having a pitcher, a catcher, and one fielder confined to the area inside the base paths versus a hitter whose goal was to make contact and try to get inside the park home run or over the fence clearing home run in order to win the game instantly. If the batter is walked, the catcher must hand off the ball to the pitcher, who will then chase the batter around first to third, touching each base until he can either tag the runner or throw the ball to home plate for the catcher to tag the runner out. It has been 2 seasons that Bananaball has been playing their rival team, the Party Animals, and any challengers under these rules. They have been selling out each venue with ease. When they announced their 2023 tour, I signed up for multiple games, and I won the chance to buy tickets to only one of these dates. When that day came, I was given specific instructions on how to buy my tickets. I managed to get tickets for a Friday when I meant to get them for a Saturday. I emailed quickly to tell the sales staff my error, and Carson Bowen moved my tickets to Saturday for me. You can see him pictured here. I just wanted to thank him for his help. Anyways, when we arrived around 4:30 p.m. for a 5:30 p.m. gate opening, the lines were full. They had us stand around and wait for quite some time before they let us in. Well, let me tell you, the experience was magical. The place was at capacity full. They had all sorts of silliness going on, like having a ceremonial first peel where a small boy peels a banana, bites into it, and tells us whether it was good or not. There's a celebration of life and parenthood, indicating that the Bananas organization believes in the future. They put a newborn baby into a banana costume and celebrate that night's banana baby. They'll have a little girl lead the crowd in a dance where everyone mimics her moves, and not typically shown on the broadcast, but the Party Animals were playing Duck Duck Goose with each other. In addition to players warming up, Dalton Malden, who had musical talent, and a single that he released, played his guitar and sang for us. They had a home run derby in the fashion American Gladiators would have made it, with various stations at various distances away from the outfield fences. This had been done to determine home field advantage. There were autographs by the Bananas going on with kids in the crowd and music was playing. You'd also see various players catch with a football or baseball with kids in the stadium from the field level. This even happened in left field while the game was going on. I bought myself a little split plush that I'd been wanting for quite some time, as well as some other merchandise. There are a ton of college-age young adults working for the organization, and if Chick-fil-A had a baseball team, its support staff would definitely mirror what the Bananas workers were doing. They were exceptionally polite. There was a parking garage outside of left field. Several people who couldn't get tickets were watching from there. There was a hotel in center field where people were watching as well. The Bananas had seen a family of several children watching from the hotel window the previous night and sent some players over there to give them some tickets for the next night's game, the game we attended. They were behind us when autographs were signed, and it was great meeting them. Watching from the outfield probably wasn't the best idea. I forgot how parents these days act, and their children kept blocking our view. But none of the parents got on to their kids about backing up and sitting with them like what would have happened when I was a kid. At one point, Tucker Perry and Sean Fluke of the Party Animals were walking the outfield seating lawns and tried to Pied Piper the kids away from the bullpen fence. It lasted all of 5 minutes, and the kids were back in front of everyone before we knew it. I should have just put our blanket on the concrete in front of the fence, but I wasn't thinking. We eventually left the hard grass in right field and found a place to stand where there were no longer had children blocking our view, and it was wonderful. They played music throughout the game, even while people are at bat. And the thing is about a Bananaball game is that it goes by so fast you don't want to miss anything, so you're less inclined to leave your seat and go to the bathroom or buy concessions. This is because between innings, there's always a contest or something going on that you don't want to miss. During the game, members far down the lineup will randomly walk around the stadium and take pictures with fans. The accessibility of the players is just something completely foreign to Major League Baseball. They'd never allow this to happen at their games. There was one point when Matt Wolf on the Bananas with the rodeo clown gimmick, and yes, several players have some sort of gimmick that they do. Bananaball is just versatile enough to be able to accommodate this idea. Well, anyways, his gimmick was that in addition to being from a long line of rodeo clowns, he also works as a firefighter in Oklahoma City, and his fire company brought their truck to the game to watch from outside the stadium on top of the fire truck. During the game, the best mascot in all of sports, Split, was walking and sitting on the outfield wall. The game itself was a close game, and we almost had a showdown. Afterwards, we were able to meet the players and have autographs. I mostly introduced myself to the young professor and the broadcast team of Biko Scala and Josh Chalevsky to throw some ideas around about the future of this game and how there should eventually be a league playing this version of baseball competitively. and that it would be sold out almost every time it's tried. I also said that they only needed 45 minutes to sell 24,000 seats to 3 games, and that next season they should definitely sell out an MLB stadium. I was told that this has been a possibility, with several MLB teams reaching out to them. And I think there's a lot of operations-wise that the Bananas want to perfect before they attempt to do that. One of the principled stances that Jesse Cole has been adamant about is that he doesn't like the influence of big money. He especially loathes online ticket resellers. He absolutely refuses to cooperate with them, going so far as to attempt to cancel tickets if they find them on ticket reseller websites. To end the post-game meet and greet, they had everyone join hands and form a circle, and they sang the song Stand By Me. And I've got to say that such an idea of communal group singing instantly reminds me of going to church, and banana games make you feel a sense of community. It is amazing. I was able to get an idea in Jesse's head that to save time and mitigate some home field advantage in the sport, that they should have the home team bat at the bottom of odd-numbered innings and at the top of even-numbered innings. I didn't have a lot of time to properly pitch this idea, but luckily for me, somebody was picking up what I was trying to tell them, and they helped me explain it. Who knows? Maybe it'll be tried out, maybe not. He kind of told me they were happy with the 2-hour time limit, or 2-hour games. I also didn't get the chance to pitch the idea that they should have a bananaballs rules tested out by amateur high school or college-age teams by having a bananaball rules tournament at Grayson. And if they streamed it, I would totally watch it. Maybe they can get an ice cream parlor to sponsor it and award a banana split trophy as the centerpiece of a trophy, or see if a banana company that the CIA once assisted in a coup against Guatemala would sponsor it. Either way, I think such an event would be attended and entertaining, and I think that I would love to see a serious game of banana ball. Maybe do it like a championship series between the best of 3 between the Bananas and the Party Animals. No on-field antics, no putting Stilts or Bill Lee into the game. Just enforce balks like normal. Let the players see which side is best. I would love to see it if the rule set itself could hold up and keep the game exciting, because if it can, it'll show that a league of teams playing under these rules is very much a possibility. And since we have split, can the Party Animals also get a monkey mascot that wears a banana peel for a hat? I'll end by saying I think Bananaball is a gold mine, and that we've only dug the first 10 feet of that mine, and that the possibilities for the future of this young rule set are endless. If you ever get the chance to go to a Bananaball game, drop everything that you have planned and go. Even under the worst circumstances of a runaway game, it is the most fun you'll ever have at a baseball game. Please visit our unofficial Bananaball subreddit at rbananabaseball. And do check out the rest of this video, because there's some other interesting things that I didn't realize that Jackson Olsen had pretty much had the same sentiments I had 5 months ago, that there would be a league. They would eventually sell an MLB stadium. I know it's Jesse Cole's dream to sell out Fenway, and I think when he does get the chance to book it, I think Boston will show up, and I think they will sell out, no doubt about it. It was very hard to get tickets for this game, and a lot of people were paying well above the $25 price tag that was put on these games. It's a very, very, very fun event to go to, and if you have the chance, if you win tickets, if you get a chance to go with somebody, don't hesitate to go. You will kick yourself if you miss it. It is just that good of an event.
One 0 count on EJ. Breland spent 4 years with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jones blasts that deep to left field. That thing's off the wall. EJ's around second base. Acuff's getting to it. Breland now the cutoff man. The relay throw. In time! Oh, Vincent Chapman with the crazy call. And wow, he just hit Eric Jones. Vincent Chapman hit Eric Jones. And this has gotten ugly quick. Party Animals win Oklahoma. And Vincent is irate, being held back by Reggie Liggins. No one had a better view of the play than Vincent. But I'll be darned if from the broadcast booth it didn't look like EJ was safe.
Just an absolutely wild call from Vincent Chapman there. We'll take a look at it here on the replay.
As you see Vincent being escorted off the field by his compadres, you get another look. Yeah, EJ was safe. Oh, that is devastating. That's the difference between getting to round 2 of showdowns and the Party Animals winning Oklahoma. It's bang bang, but at worst it looks like the tie goes to EJ. That's a pretty crazy call. And here's where you see Jones put his hands on Vincent, and that's where things went completely off the handle.
If I could choose being a shortstop for the Yankees or the third baseman for the Bananas right now, third baseman for the Bananas. Not even close. And the reason is they're on a rocket ship right now. And I want to be on that rocket ship when it's taking off. Like, why would you want to, like, obviously, like, I'm not good enough to play shortstop for the Yankees. Like, but if there was an offer in front of me right now and I had to choose one or the other, I would choose the Bananas. And that's crazy. That is insane. That's insane to say. I'm literally insane for saying that. I'm insane for saying that. But
you want to be on the rise.
What I believe in. It's what I believe in too. It's making baseball fun and a different brand of baseball and making these kids realize, like, baseball is not just like hard-nosed, like you have to compete your ass off like every day. And yes, you do. But you also have to have fun. And like that's why we started playing. So the Bananas makes you realize, like, this is why we started playing. So that's it. Yeah.
That's actually crazy that you would not take a offer from the Yankees, but you would stay on the Savannah Bananas. Is that how much faith you have? Like, do you have a lot of faith in them rising?
Yeah, I do. And also I believe in it so much. It's just what I believe in. It's making baseball fun on a level that's never been done before. Right. Crazy. I think there's going to be a league. I think more teams are going to catch on to this and eventually someone's will stick.
And some won't.
So yeah, some won't, some will. And the ones that will, it's going to have to be perfectly timed. I'm not sure what that timing is. No one knows. It's one of those things that's just going to happen. It's going to just happen.
And of course, we'll see you later.